It's summertime, but it is also baseball time, and there's plenty of opportunities on a daily and nightly basis to make some money with MLB. And myself, Steve Merril, and Ralph Michaels are going to be breaking this down on a weekly basis throughout the summer. MLB Handicapping 2.0 right here on WagerTalk TV, taking a little bit of a deeper dive into the MLB Handicapping. Some charts. If you liked Ralph's TNA segment on Bet On It during the football season, a little bit of basketball, you'll love it here on a weekly basis on Wager Talk TV. Hey, do me a couple quick favors. If you like the show, leave a thumbs up and make sure you hit subscribe so that you can find videos every week when this goes live here on Wager Talk TV. And most importantly, leave us some comments below. Let us know if there's some trends or angles or some systems in baseball that you want us to research, and we'll get to it on future episodes here on MLB Handicapping 2.0. With no further ado, once again, I am Steve Merril. Let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend, the database, the pen, Stat Daddy, father of Jeff, my favorite new nickname for him, Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. And Ralph, I'm looking forward to doing this. You know, you and I both have been trying to come up with some baseball video ideas during the wee days of summer here. And I think maybe we've hit on something. You know, want to have a little bit of content on Fridays heading into the Saturday and Sunday series, but we also wanted to have a good shelf life where people can catch it at any point, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and still use it for future MLB handicapping. So we're going to show some charts and also some angles that work or maybe don't work or that are 50-50, right, Ralph? Because sometimes weeding out trends and systems that don't make money are just as good as finding those that do.
Yeah, really, Steve, like you said, 2.0, we're taking it to the next level. We're not going to give you best bets. I mean, there may be an occasional one that pops out, but more things to look at that are positives, things to look at that are negatives. And as you said, Steve, there's going to be times that we may have a chart that a viewer had requested that perhaps is a 50-50 chart. But when we break down games, Steve, it's as important to know what works, what doesn't work, and what not to weigh too heavily. You know, there's one angle we're going to break out to end this show where I think most people would say, this is a situation I want to play on the home team, but the data shows us that's not always a positive. So a lot to learn. And again, this will be a viewer-driven show. Reach out to any chart you want. And over the next few weeks, we will do our best to make sure we give you the data here on the show.
Yeah, and the best way to request an angle, a trend that you want researched or a baseball system is to leave it in the comments below here on YouTube on Wager Talk TV. But you can also reach out to Ralph on Twitter at CalSportsLV, at CalSportsLV. Or, of course, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Steve Merril, 2 R's, 1 L, Merril, at Steve Merril on Twitter. And Ralph, you know, since this is our first episode of the season here, MLB Handicapping 2.0, let's take a general overlook on how the season's been going so far and which MLB teams have made money and lost money for backers. And also, at the same time, we'll take a look at some totals as well, over-unders in baseball, of course, available on a daily basis. But let's pull up a chart of the overall season numbers here. Now, we're doing this video on Friday, June the 23rd, a couple months into the season, past the one-third mark, heading closer to that halfway, the All-Star break around the corner here in July. What jumped out to you, Ralph, as far as really profitable teams overall and, you know, maybe teams that have underachieved so far this year in baseball?
Well, this chart is probably the chart I would look at the least. We know the baseball season is so long. I mean, look at how the Pirates started and today when we're filming, they lost 10 straight games. It's such a streaky game. But the one thing I do like looking at is how teams compare from the money line to the run line and the over-unders. You see on the left-hand side of the team names, those that have over-under records of 55% and higher have been highlighted in blue. The white and brown are those that have gone under the total by 55%. So, of course, the top 5 teams on the money line, Orioles, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Rays, Reds making a run with their incredible last 3 weeks. On the bottom, the Royals, the A's, the Mets, the Padres, and the Cardinals. The one thing that sticks out to me, ignoring the over-under numbers, because we've seen some powerful over-under teams like the Padres who have great pitching and no hitting, 62.5% of their games have gone over. But take a look on the very top, Steve. Take a look at the Rangers. They're 46-28. plus 13.7 units on the money line. But look at the run line, 47 and 27, average line of minus 110. They're plus 21 units. They're, of course, leading the MLB in hitting. So when you get that team that has good pitching and is crushing the ball, don't be afraid to take that team and either play them on the run line or split your bet, half money line and half run line. But that's the one that jumps out to me is I have not seen a gap that big where a team is up that many units this early in the season on the run line.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, we can't. This is past data, right? We of course are concerned with what's happening in the future, and the general public might think, hey, look, these teams are due to regress. But I'd be very careful thinking that everything's going to end up being 500 at the end of the season because that's not how baseball works. There's always some big time winners, and two or three teams that lose big time units will continue to lose units even after being negative. And I bring that up because the two teams you talked about, Orioles and Rangers, back in 2021, just 2 seasons ago, were the two biggest money burners in the American League. Rangers lost over 16 and a half units that year. The Orioles lost almost 27 units that year. And if you recall, the Orioles were pretty bad in 2020. Of course, 2020 is kind of a throwaway season, but 2019, if I'm not mistaken, the Orioles are pretty bad as well, down 19 units. And they've been the best team in baseball the last 2 years since. In 2022, everyone thought they would regress this year. They're a moneymaker now. Rangers, of course, were a play-on team for me. I had them as a season-over win on the baseball preview show here on WagerTalk TV, and they have vastly outperformed what a lot of people were expecting. Doesn't mean it's going to stop, though. Quickly on the over-unders, one thing that jumps out to me about the over-unders, that is a situation where we do seem somewhat of a reversion to the mean, in my opinion, over 162 games. And the reason I say that, if you look back, Ralph, the last couple seasons, almost every team in Major League Baseball finishes between the 40 to 60% mark with overs or unders. There's maybe one outlier a season or every other season that's around that 35, 37% mark. So you are going to see over-unders, I think, somewhat return to the norm. And one team I talked about for several weeks on the shows was San Diego. Too much offensive potential to be such an extreme under team. Teddy Covers and I talked about how Petco's just been very unhitter-friendly, and the pitching, like you said, has been very good. But your Cleveland Guardians and the San Diego Padres run historic underruns the first couple months. Do you think maybe there's a little something to the MLB totals reverting back to the mean more so than sides maybe?
Well, Steve, let me just go back to your point. I went to the database while you were talking. In 2022, the Houston Astros were 63 overs and 100 unders. You didn't think that of the Astros and their hitting. That's 38.7%. The top over team was the Mets. They were 88 and 70. That's 55%. The next highest over team was the Royals at 52.6. So at the end of the year, you have many more teams that lean to the under, and very few teams are over that 53% to the over. As far as the Guardians go, they're starting to get their pitching staff back. They just got McKenzie back from injury. He's made a couple starts, and they just don't have any pop. If you're not going to hit home runs, they are clearly going to be an under team. San Diego, as you said, I have to believe that offense gets under gear, but they're also the number 3 team with a 1.1 team whip. So to me, they are an under team. Another under team, I think, is Minnesota. Minnesota's pitching has been incredible, the number 2 team ERA. And as an offense, the team has more strikeouts than any team. So Minnesota, to me, I still look at the unders. And the Guardians, I still look at the unders. I've not been on the San Diego bandwagon, and I'm not going to jump on it if you miss this part of the boat. So we'll see what happens with the Padres.
Yeah, once again, last year, 2022, like you said, more unders overall as that league, over-under trend was more towards the unders. And even then, every team was about 42% or higher, except for that one squad, the Astros, who had World Series caliber bullpen and pitching. Looking back as far as 2019, real quick, just some brief numbers. I'm looking at 40 to 60% range, every team in the league in 2019, over or under by the end of the season. So I do think there's some money to be made maybe with these extreme outliers long-term with over-unders in Major League Baseball. A quick reminder, you can find Ralph Michaels and myself, Steve Merril, at WagerTalk.com. We have baseball best bets up every day. We also post free plays on a daily basis. So I highly recommend, if you are looking for free information for actionable game day free plays, You don't need them on this video. They're on the website right now for free on a daily basis from numerous cappers, including Ralph and myself at WagerTalk.com. Special promo code, by the way, for all viewers of the video this weekend. If you'd like to get Ralph's 7-day baseball package or my 7-day baseball package, or get both of our 7-day baseball packages, you can save big right now with promo code MLB7. Quite simply, you get 7 days and nights for just $49. You do the math. That's just $7 per day for every best bet from Ralph Michaels and every best bet from Steve Merril. You can use it on both of us. You don't have to decide. Get both of our 7-day MLB packages for just $49 each with promo code MLB7. You have to use that at checkout. It's not available anywhere else. Get it at WagerTalk.com. Ralph, what do you want to get to next year? You want to look at the last 7 days, get a little bit closer to this weekend and how teams have been over the last week or so?
Yeah, and you guys, please comment. We're going to look at the last 7 days, what has happened. And Steve and I talked, what would viewers like to see the Who's Hot chart? Is it 7 days? Is it 10 days? Is it 15 days? So, as a handicapper, I basically only go back 2 series. Unless you're on the road for a couple series and you're returning home, I sort of look at it different. But Steve, this chart is simply since last Friday. So some teams have played 7 days. And I did sort it by profit based on the money line. So you see the Reds 6-0, and their profit is 6.83 units. They were obviously a dog a couple times in that game. The Giants 6-1, the Braves 5-0, the Cubs 5-1. You look at the bottom. Take a look at the Rays. The Rays are 2-4, yet they're number 27 as far as profit goes, because you had an average line of minus 156. You lose 4 games as a 156 favorite. That's like losing 6 games. But one thing that jumps out to me on this chart, take a look at the bottom at the A's. The A's have lost 6 in a row again. We know they went through that historic streak, winning that many games as a dog, including the first team ever to win 5 straight games as a dog of 150 or higher. But while you see they're 0-6, take a look to the right on the run line. They're actually 4-2 plus 1.5 units. So while the A's may not have kept that winning streak happening, they are clearly playing much more competitive ball than they have previously to that win streak.
And by the way, if this is the second of 4 charts we're getting to on this video here, MLB Handicapping 2.0 as we head into the weekend. But if you want more charts, if this isn't enough for you, Ralph had another chart on Friday afternoon's Wager Talk today about run lines and money lines home and away. So a little bonus chart action on the MLB segment here we did on Wager Talk today. Teddy covers, Ralph Michaels, and myself, Steve Merril. Check that out, the replay of Wager Talk today for Friday, June 23rd for an additional chart. And Ralph, you're right. I thought it was a typo. I almost told you made a mistake on the A's there, and I realized that was the run line because I was like, how can an 0-6 team be plus money? But the A's have been losing close games, and isn't it remarkable the ebb and flow of the baseball season, because they were getting blown out by 2+ runs almost every one of those losses early in the season. They win 7 straight, as you said, first team to ever win 7 in a row, let alone 5 in a row at the plus 150 mark. And by the way, if you did a $100 money line parlay, rollover parlay, nobody would have done that, of course. But if you did over those 7 games, you would have had a 1,500 to 1 return. A $100 investment over those 7 games would have made you $151,000. And you'd be watching MLB Handicapping 2.0 from your new beach house in Tahiti while sipping on a beverage here. But I'm sure nobody did that. If you did, comment below. We have a lie detector in the comment sections, though, so keep it honest. But right after that 7 straight wins, as we do this video on Friday, June 23rd, they've now lost 8 straight. But like you said, Ralph, they've been keeping games close. So we'll see if that continues. They did have 2 one-run losses against your Cleveland Guardians, but then lost 6-1, of course, on Thursday yesterday. All right, let's get a little bit closer to the weekend here. We're going to end the show in a minute, of course, with some actionable info and an angle you can actually use for Saturday and all games going forward this season. But let's look at one more chart here while we have you before we get to that one. And let's look at day versus night games. Now, Fridays are pretty much all night games. That's always the case. But Saturday, we get kind of a mix, maybe 50-50. And then Sunday's almost all day games, except for the Sunday nighter. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at a difference between day and night games. Do you put much stock into this? We're a few months in. Do you think maybe some teams perform better or worse, or is it just kind of maybe a random variance at this point in the season?
Well, I think it depends on the season too. I look at night games in Seattle when it's foggy and it's damp, and look for more unders. Seattle players talk about when it gets to be summer and it's warmer out, the ball carries better. So I don't put that much stock in this. But when a team is playing well in a day, I do give them an extra half check mark. So there's a lot of colors on this, guys. And Steve, let's just share with all the viewers. I will put all these charts on Twitter. So if you follow me at CalSportsLV, I will post each of these charts individually because there's a lot of data to look at. So you see day games on the left of this chart, night games on the right. And when you see the dark red with white text or the dark green with white text, that means they're top 5 in that category. So the left-hand side are the days, the right-hand sides are the night, the dark red, bottom 5, the green, top 5. And to the right, it's the diff. So the diff means this. The Tigers are number 26 in profit in day games. The Tigers are actually number 3 in profit in night games. Who would have thought that? 18 and 16, they played a lot more day games, but the difference in the ranks is 23. So the rank is the biggest diff. So the Tigers are the biggest difference, being better at night. You look at the bottom of the chart, the Phillies. Steve, the Phillies at night are 17 and 24 with an average line of minus 125.8. In day games, the Phillies are 21 and 12 plus 6.03 units. So again, it's something to keep an eye on. The Tigers are on one spectrum. The Phillies are on the opposite spectrum. Your thoughts on day and night, and how much stock do you put into it?
I don't, but here's what jumps out to me, Ralph, is that you've got two of the worst teams in the league, the Tigers and Athletics. And let's look at Oakland once again. I love talking about the A's because they're just historically bad. Your future Las Vegas Athletics, maybe, Ralph Michaels, but we'll see if that happens or not. 4 and 29 in day games. I mean, that's atrocious even for the A's, yet they're, a respectable 15 and 29 in night games. Tigers, like you said, winning team in night games, much worse in day games. And what's interesting about this to me, Ralph, is it's actually the opposite of what I would have thought. I would have thought a day game is a little out of the ordinary, and maybe you kind of, a better team isn't quite on focus like they are for a regular night game, but it's the exact opposite. And then you're going down to the defending NL champ Phillies. And yes, maybe they've underachieved a little bit this year, but they're still one of the best teams in baseball. They made the World Series last year. They've done better in day games versus night games. So something I've never thought about in my 20-some years of handicapping, do maybe day games benefit the better team than the worst team, Ralph? Any thoughts on that?
Well, Steve, my one thought is this, is many times in day games, you rest star players. So if both teams are resting star players, it means you're going much deeper into your bench. So who's going to have better bench guys? Clearly, the better team is going to have better bench guys. Obviously, you're not resting your players multiple games, but there are always a game or two a week that you're resting players. And I know the Guardians, traditionally in day games, because you're playing a day after a night, that's the time you're resting your starters. And I just want to jump back to the Athletics again. While they're 15 and 29, Steve, their average line is plus 181. So they are only minus 2 units. They might only be winning 34.1% of their games, but they're number 14th in profit, minus 2 units with that incredible line. So again, I look at it. When teams are doing very well or very poorly, I give it a half check mark. But we'll be monitoring it more closely, and we'll perhaps try to get you some value moving on in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, another example, you look at the Rangers, 21, and we talked about the Rangers have been probably the best team in baseball this year. They're 21 and 7 in day games. They're 25 and 21 in night games. And that's a huge discrepancy there from the best team in baseball right now. I love that logic, by the way. That's not something I thought. Once again, it would have been counterintuitive to me initially. I would have said, good teams are resting their star players. They've got better star players. That's going to hurt them more. But like you just said, there's less depth on these bad teams. So if they're each sitting out, you could sit one star on a good team. You can't sit one star on the bad team. They've got nothing else. I think you're onto something. And the line of those athletics games have been almost identical night and day, and the records are extremely different. So I think this is something we should keep charting. Maybe we've just made this show MLB Handicapping 3.0 without realizing it, because I think this is fascinating. Viewers, leave comments below. Let us know your thoughts on initially what looks like bad teams do worse in day games than good teams. And yet the bad teams maybe have a little bit more of an edge in the night games against a good team. Very interesting stuff from Stat Daddy himself, Ralph Michaels. Once again, all these charts will be on Twitter at CalSportsLV.
Next week, sorry for jumping in on you. Next week, what I'll do, so tune in next Friday. I will do a home and away day and night chart. So we'll see how that breaks down with the good teams and the bad teams, and we'll see how much different it is for these two teams. So that'll be one of our charts we do next week. And again, comment below any other charts you want to do. Just FYI, in the futures, we'll compare righties versus lefties. We'll compare how teams do versus similar teams that are winning 55%, 45% or less, and a ton of other data for you.
Yeah, and do not call Ralph with your ideas. Leave them in the comments below. That's where we're going to get to them. I mean, look, this is good stuff.
The first day for me to do a video, right? Leave your ringer on, idiot.
I'm just glad we have at least one viewer for this new video segment. They're so anxious. They're calling you with questions, but it's good stuff. And Ralph, I wouldn't even mind digging deeper over the years if you want, maybe for next week, and have losing teams, winning teams overall for the season. Once we know how they fared, who the worst teams were, and go back and look, say in 2019, 2018, the worst two teams in baseball, were they better in the day games versus night games, or vice versa, better in the night games versus the day games, or, the eventual World Series champs are the best two teams in baseball. Was it like the Rangers record right now? Because it's really staggering to see the Rangers 21-7 in day, 25-21 in the night. And once again, we're doing this video on Friday afternoon. We got some viewers will catch it for Friday night, but everyone will hopefully see it for Saturday and Sunday. Maybe you can use this info on Saturday and Sunday. A lot of day games on the weekend schedule. Once again, don't forget Ralph Michaels and myself, Steve Merril. We're at WagerTalk.com, and we handicap baseball on a daily basis, and we make money for our clients. And right now you can save while you make some money, because you can get a 7-day baseball subscription from either one of us for just $49. But you have to have promo code MLB7, the number 7, MLB7, gets you 7 days and nights for just $49. And you can use it for both myself, Steve Merril, and Ralph Michaels. You don't have to decide. Get both of us for less than $100 for a full week of MLB with promo code MLB7 at WagerTalk.com. All right, Ralph, now that we're getting closer to the weekend, hold off cracking that beer open for one more chart. This will apply to Saturday games, right? There's always a game 2 in every series. Counterintuitive to what a lot of people might thought, so or might think about game 2s. Let me know your thoughts on game 2s here, and pull up a chart for this one.
Well, Steve, I think Joe Public, you go into a bar, you ask a guy having a beer, how do teams do off a loss as a home favorite? And I think most people in baseball have the mentality, we know what Brady and Belichick used to do. We know what the Bucks did last year off a loss as a favorite. So I think in other sports, there's time to rebound, there's time to reflect, and those good teams off a loss, you can find positive situations to play them. But take a look. I went back since 2019, Steve, and simply all I did was this. The top line is you're off a win as a home favorite, and then in game 2, you're a home favorite. The second line, you're off a win as a home favorite. Now you're a home dog. The third line, you're off a loss as a home favorite. Now you're a home favorite. And the fourth line, you're off a loss as a home favorite, and you're now a home dog. So let's look at the bottom first, Steve. When teams lose game number 1 of a series as a home favorite, and then they're a home favorite again, they're minus 36 units, but there's a lot of games. Take a look at the record. If you look at a record and say 59%, you think that's a positive. But those teams that have been in home favorite, you see an average line of minus 167.2. So yes, they win 58.6% of the time, but they're actually down 36.97 units, which is a minus 3.7% return on investment. If you lost as a home favorite and you're a home dog, you see that's happened many fewer times, only 108 games since 2019 when you're a home dog after losing as a home favorite. But those teams down 15 units and a much higher negative return on investment, minus 13.9. If you're off a win as a home favorite on the top, basically break even, a minus 0.7 return on investment. If you're a home dog after winning home game, a slight edge. So I'm not going to put any extra stock into winning as a home favorite in game two, but certainly do not give a team a positive check mark if they're off a loss as a home favorite, expecting them to bounce back. Again, MLB games, you look at the end of the year, almost everyone's between 60% and 40%. It's a long grind on the season. There's streaky teams, hot and cold. So all those things much more important than a situational trying to play a team off a loss in game one.
Yeah, we've kind of come full circle because that was exactly the point I was getting to on the first chart earlier about, almost every team finishes 40 to 60% on over-under. I failed to mention almost every team, like you said, Ralph, finishes 40 to 60% straight up win percentage, one loss record over 162 games as well. And that, once again, is why we've talked about the Oakland A's, because they're on a pace to be historically bad, perhaps, along with the Kansas City Royals, who actually were one game worse than Oakland a week ago when Oakland won 7 straight. The Royals briefly had the worst record this year, which also would have been the worst record in history. Johnny Detroit's Tigers lost 119 games back in 2003 on 162 games. That's the most losses ever. But like you said, Ralph, short term, and we didn't mention this with the over-under streaks, teams get streaky. They get hot or cold. I like to look at offensive momentum. And it's always a red flag for me in any sport when a team underachieves in a situation they should play well in. And in baseball, that would be being a home favorite and having to play the very next day. Because like you said, unlike football, you don't have a week off to fix your problems or a day or two off in basketball. And what's interesting on that chart, once again, is the home favorite in game two is almost $1.80. You're laying some juice there, and $1.67 still for the off a loss as a home favorite. So either way, these home favorites are pretty pricey. But the big takeaway on this for me is that the big discrepancy, the most profitable and the least profitable both, was home dogs. Off a win, they're profitable. Off a loss as a home favorite, they're not. So that's something to keep an eye on. And once again, you want to look at return on investment, that last column, because it might be less money lost, but that's because there's been less situations. You see that win percentage, only 39.8%. So once again, a home dog off a win is a favorite, momentum. Home dog off a loss off a favorite, a red flag, beware. This could come into play on Saturday for those watching us this weekend. Check the Friday night results, see if any teams lost outright as a home favorite, and then check this chart to know which way you might want to lean. And once again, Ralph, once again, this is a filter, a factor, right? One of the many pieces you're using in the handicap equation, right?
It is. And again, baseball is so much different than every other sport because of those streaks and the pitchers. No other sport is the line so reliant on a starter, where one day you could be a 200 favorite, one game you could be a dog. I mean, when you look at the best team, if you have a good team with the best pitcher in baseball, you're going to be the biggest favorite. That's not going to be the case in any other sport. The best team is going to be the biggest favorite, and so on and so forth. So again, we all know it's very pitcher reliant. We'll break things down more. First five, Steve, and that's another chart that pops into my mind, that there are clearly some teams that you want to play first five, those that have the starters and crappy teams. I'm going to throw out the Pirates again. Yeah, the Pirates have lost 10 in a row, but what happened yesterday? Thursday night, Keller pitches great. He has a 2-1 lead. He pitches 7 innings, 1 run, 5 hits. Gets yanked out. They score 2 in the eighth to lead 4-1, and then the bullpen implodes. So something we'll break down in the future. Those teams to look at to play first five. Especially as a dog, a lot of people like playing favorites for the first five. Bullpens are worse, but there's a lot of situations where the dog in the first five money as well.
Yeah, there's so many ideas popping into my head as we speak here. And once again, viewers, leave comments below, any trends, angles, TNA, or systems in general that you want us to backtest and you want Ralph to run through his database. We'll talk about it on future episodes here on MLB Handicapping 2.0. And once again, hit subscribe, hit the bell for an instant alert when these videos go live. We're going to plan on doing them on Fridays. It might vary a little bit during the summer due to travel and other things. But once again, hope to do this on a weekly basis. We hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Thumbs up, like, subscribe. and leave comments below, and we will answer them either on the air or in the comments section. And don't forget also to check out WagerTalk.com right now and get a great baseball special. If you're new to baseball betting, this is a pretty good spot to start with baseball MLB Handicapping 2.0. But if you want some official best bets from myself, Steve Merril, and Ralph Michaels on a daily basis, take advantage of promo code MLB7, the number 7, MLB7. When you buy a 7-day baseball package from myself, Steve Merril, or Ralph Michaels, you get 7 days and nights of our best bets for just $49. Instant discount. Now, normally it's $79 for each of us. You can get each of us for just $49. That means you do the math. You're getting a full week of both of us for just $98 if you choose. Not a bad option to build your bankroll here this summer as you head closer to the football season. And by the way, early bird specials are available right now for NFL and college football from all cappers. Check those out as well at WagerTalk.com, along with numerous free plays on a daily basis. I'm Steve Merril for Ralph Michaels. We enjoyed it. The Pen, Stat Daddy, the human database. We'll be back next week. Leave some comments below. Let us know your thoughts and your questions. We'll answer them on a weekly basis right here on WagerTalk TV on MLB Handicapping 2.0. Thanks for being with us.